Hi, I'm Dr. Linda Horton, and this is the Helpful Homeschooler. Today, I'm going to be introducing a new series that I will be doing, and it's called the Frugal Homeschooler. Now, frugal doesn't necessarily mean cheap. It really means cost conscious. And these days, I know most families are very cost conscious in how they live their lives, what they buy, where they go. And homeschooling is no different. One of the things that I'm asked a lot is, can you homeschool on one income? And the answer, of course, is yes, 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 yes. The biggest thing that we have to remember is to be frugal. So let's say you're homeschooling and you have 4 children. And so the oldest child, if you get a consumable book, you might not have them write in that consumable book. You might have them write in a notebook and pass that book down to the next one. I did that with my 4 boys. The last one got to write in it. He felt so special. And the older ones would just have their answers in a notebook. That's frugal homeschooling. Another way for frugal homeschooling is unit studies, which I have done with my children as well. And a unit study is, perhaps we use American history. So you teach the American history lesson always to the oldest child, 100% of the time. Now bear with me. So you're teaching it to the oldest child, and the rest of the children are going to get it, but not in the depth that the older child gets it. But then the work they complete is really commensurate on their grade level. So let's say you do something on the Revolutionary War, and you have a 2nd grader, a 4th grader, a 6th grader, and an 8th grader. So you're going to teach it to the 8th grader. And the work the 8th grader does is going to be different than the work you expect of the 6th grader, a 4th grader, or a 2nd grader. It works. I've done it actually in a school setting as well. My favorite school settings are one-room schoolhouses, and that's because these younger kids are going to get the information, but not the details. So your questioning for the 2nd grader would be, in the Revolutionary War, who were the people that fought? And for the 8th graders, why? This is frugal homeschooling because you are using one curriculum to teach 4 grades at the same time. Now, unit studies is a little time consuming on our part because we have to come up with different tests, different projects, that kind of thing. But as a whole, let me say this about unit studies. It's frugal and it brings your children together. If you have a situation where your children are off in one room doing one thing and another one in another room doing another thing, unit studies are a great way to bring your children into the same room doing the same thing at the same time. It really builds camaraderie. And it also, the younger children will be helped by the older children. Not only that, but the younger children are getting I don't want to say faster education, I did say it. They're getting a better education because they're learning at a higher level. And I've said it before, when I did unit studies for my 4 boys, the older boys were in high school. The youngest one was, I think, 6th, 7th grade. He did the same work because he was so capable. And that's what really we're talking about. That's frugal homeschooling, but it's also smart homeschooling. So when we talk about frugal, we're talking about using our resources to the best of our ability. Saving money, yes, that's important, but also being wise in how we homeschool. So unit studies are a great way to be frugal. Using what you have at home is a great way to be frugal. Taking the homeschooling material and taking it down to, as they go down, putting it down to the last child. I will say, when it gets to the last child, it's kind of sad to watch them write in that book. I can't explain it. If you've been through it, maybe you understand. I just thought, oh my goodness, that's the last time we're using that book. So while it's happy for the younger child because he feels special, or she feels special because she's writing in this book that nobody else could write in. It's sadness for us. So this is what the series Frugal Homeschooling is going to be about the best bang for your buck when it comes to homeschooling, and the best way to motivate your children in and not have to be fancy about it. We have a tendency, especially in America, I want to say, to think the bigger the better. But that's not always the truth. Sometimes it's the little things. And when we talk about frugal homeschooling, I want you to think about this. Bottom line, what subject or subjects do you remember from your schooling? What lessons do you remember from your schooling? I'll give you a minute to think about it. I remember specifically learning the abbreviations for the states. I know that sounds weird, but it was something that, like, we didn't learn it all at once. It was, we learned a few at a time. That stuck with me. Some science experiments in high school really stuck with me. My civics teacher really stuck with me. And it was all because of the way they were taught. Not really the subject matter, but the way they were taught. And let me just say this, when we're talking about schooling, we have this idea that schooling needs to be extravagantly expensive. Public schools, we've talked about it. I mean, depending on where you are, it's $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 per student that the school system gets from the state, from the government, to school your child. And a lot of times as homeschoolers, we work on a really small budget, and we think, well, but they get to do so much. Do they really? I mean, honestly, what are they getting? So we're talking frugal homeschooling is also quality homeschooling. It's not just, oh, it costs a lot, let's do it. It's really cost effective, but it's quality. And I hope you'll tune in for the series Frugal Homeschooling. I've had a ton of fun researching some different ideas for it. A lot of it I've already done, so it's easy for me to talk about. Experience is a great teacher. And if you are on a budget, or if you want to homeschool on a budget, or if you just really want some interesting homeschooling ideas, tune in to Frugal Homeschooling, because I think you're going to enjoy it. Remember, homeschooling is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And we do it together as a family. So go out and enjoy the journey. Goodbye.